There's a radio host, Charlamagne Tha God, who is hugely influential in the African American community and the music industry. And he recently sat down for an interview with Fox News Digital. And he's been kind of a dissident voice in our politics. He's the one who got Joe Biden to say in that interview, "You ain't black if you don't vote for me," which was quite the moment. But Charlemagne had some interesting insights about the state of America's political culture. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Sorry to tell y'all, man, I'm from the South. I'm from South Carolina. More of the country is more like Florida than we may want to may want to believe. But majority of America is more, rural and full of conservative values, like in a place like Florida than there is, other places. I think when you live in New York or California, you might be fooled and think that's the world, but that's not the world. The world is more sovereign in Midwest than anything.
So, Hannah, what did you think of this? I thought that was pretty insightful.
Yeah, I thought it was absolutely accurate. And, as somebody who's traveled the country really extensively, I used to pretty much live on the road domestically for a lot of my work. I've been to a lot of these places that are supposedly so blue. And I know it's anecdotal, but I often end up talking about politics, like my Uber driver, my bartender, my waitress, because, you're sitting in a bar by yourself, they make conversation, you're driving, they ask you what you do. I work in politics. It's kind of inevitable the conversation turns to politics. And what has always fascinated me is I've never met these hardline progressives that they claim are out there. Even in places like San Francisco, even in places like New York City, it's often a lot more nuanced and a lot more sort of libertarian, and they fall on the left because they can't stand the right. Like, they're definitely like solid blue, but like they'll open up and say, yeah, I wish there were more choices. I don't like this about Democrats. I hate, and usually it's the economic side, right? They can't stand what they're doing to money. They can't stand that the cost of living is going up. It's hard to get housing, and they do to some extent understand that those are due to those policies. So I find this to be completely accurate, and I think that the media is really the main reason that we're convinced that you have like this large segment of the population that's hardline over here, and it's because they are, right? Those are the people, the activists in the media, who are actually of that cut, and it's just absolutely false that this is something that you find predominantly throughout most parts. And even if you do find it, especially if you go into like rural New York or you go into like Southern California, it's even less the case. And actually here in Atlanta, very blue. And I won't say who to protect their privacy, but I had a service provider I was working with yesterday who's in a left-leaning field, very artsy field, and they were telling me, like, being a business owner makes me really hate the Democrats. Like, I don't want to support Republicans. They're like, I don't want to support Republicans. I can't stand some of the individual liberty, stuff they do. And they're like, but at the end of the day, like, you can't deny the economy was better under Trump. And, like, I just wish there were more options. And, like, you can't even say that out loud, she said to me, in my industry, but that's the truth. And I think a lot of people quietly feel like that.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think it's really nice to see somebody, I believe Charlemagne lives in New York, but to see somebody in media in these bubbles aware that they're in a bubble, right? Because most of the country is not like New York City, and even New York City is not as monolithic as you'd think. But even most of the country is so not like that. And I grew up in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, so kind of New England. And I remember, when I went to college and I started to meet people from across the country, I kind of did think that things were more or less similar to how they were where I grew up. And now, moving to West Michigan, it's a very different culture. But now I've been all over the country. I've been across the world. I just have a very different sense of things. And I think there's a humility that brings. And but when you do think that your views and your values are extremely widespread, it's easier to demonize the people who don't think like you and think of them as some abstract other. But yeah, I do think most of America is more like Florida, because Florida is not hard red either. That's the thing. It was a swing district until very recently, but it's definitely light red. And it's got tons of diversity of all kinds within its borders, political, socioeconomic, racial. And so, I think America is more like Florida. And I think it's interesting. I like Charlemagne. I mean, I'm sure he says and believes all sorts of things I disagree with, but he's kind of an independent voice in what is often in progressive entertainment media, not especially black media, but in that whole genre of entertainment media, a hard left echo chamber. And he is not that. He's capable of introspection, and I appreciate that. I don't know. I thought that was a cool moment.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought it was really cool. And I think you're right about Florida. People forget it's painted as hardline right. But even DeSantis, who I think is pretty far right, he's definitely further right of me, but he did some strategic things to get to where he is in the past couple of years. Like, he didn't really take a hardline stance on abortion. He didn't really say anything more than, I think, like a 15-week ban. Like, he picks his culture war battles carefully for that state, is what I would say. And I think that that's what you have to do in those kinds of areas. But yeah, Florida's still pretty purple in a lot of places, and I think that, as a whole, that's kind of good news for people who care about the economy more than anything, because I think a lot of people will put up with a lot of stuff to have like a solid 401k, to have a solid bank account, to not have to worry about feeding their families, right? A lot of things go out the window when those are concerned. So, and I saw something point this out. I don't want to go super deep into this, but I thought this was important. I actually saw this on TikTok. But when we're talking about economic concerns, looking at what happened over the past month, when there was kind of surprise that Democrats have prevailed as they have, given how unpopular some of their policies have been and how everybody thought the economy was the top issue, this woman said, for a lot of women, abortion is an economics issue. And I don't like that fact, to be clear. I'm not pro-abortion. I think we should be doing a lot more to help people keep their babies. But that is true, right? A lot of people, when they think about like being able to afford their life, like women calculate, like, I can't afford to have a kid in that.
That is true.
You don't?
I think I think what makes that not so true is the idea that it's for a lot of women. I'm sure there are some women, but I guess I don't have the numbers in front of me. What percentage of women get an abortion or ever are particularly close to getting an abortion in their life?
So we don't have like solid numbers on this because a lot of healthcare data is private, but the studies I've seen show that 1 in 4 women will have an abortion by the time they're 45 in the U.S., and over 600,000 on average annually have an abortion.
That is a lot. So yeah. But
it's a lot.
I don't know.
Women.
Something feels wrong to me about describing it as an economic issue. Because
I'm telling you though, I think as a woman, like, I don't usually pull this card, but I think it is. Like, I think a lot of women, it's 2 main reasons they get an abortion. One is like societal, people look down on you for being a single mom, right? And if you don't feel like you have like a network that's going to support you in that, just on like an ethical, moral basis, I think you're more inclined to get an abortion. And then the second is economics. I firmly believe the vast majority of women who get abortions do not want them. I think they live to regret them. I think they carry a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, and a lot of regret. But I think it is a choice of like, can I go to school and have a baby? Can I get a degree and have a baby? Can I pay my bills and have a baby? And I think if you don't have a partner, or even if you do have a partner, because keep in mind, a lot of women who have abortions have a partner, are married, even have other kids. It's a calculation of, can we afford this other kid? And I think that's a sad reality.
Yeah, I'm certainly can't say that I'm an expert in it, so maybe that's true.